This time I'm going to call on Miss Mincy White to call the roll for the commissioners.
I, Venus Mincy White, President as Clerk of the Board of Commissioners of Bulloch County, hereby call the roll for those on the governing body. All those present shall answer by saying aye. Chairman David Bennett.
Here.
Vice Chairman Toby Connor.
Aye.
Commissioner Ray Mosley.
Aye.
Commissioner Anthony Simmons.
Aye.
Commissioner Nick Newkirk.
Aye.
Commissioner Timmy Rushing.
Aye.
And Commissioner Ray Davis.
Aye.
I've determined that we have all members of the Board of Commissioners present. Therefore, we have a quorum to conduct business for the good of the citizens of Bulloch County. I now yield the floor back to the chairman.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda for this evening is a public hearing on the road abandonment and closure. And I'm going to call on County Attorney Jeff Akins.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have before you a petition that was submitted requesting that the commissioners consider abandoning County Road Birdie Lane. And in accordance with Georgia law, the commissioners must hold a public hearing on this issue before taking action to formally abandon Birdie Lane. As required by law, a public hearing notice was published in the Statesboro Herald on Thursday, December 26th, and Thursday, January 2nd. And property owners on the road were sent a letter via regular U.S. mail to notify them about the hearing and the potential closure. Now, there are only two property owners on this road. It's a dead-end road off of West Side Road, and there is a house at the end of this road that I believe has been using it for access. But this house also has frontage on, and I believe access from W.H. Smith Road, which is what I would call, this might sound like an oxymoron, but a main county road, or a more, it's not, in other words, it's not a dead end road. The letter to the person on the end of the road, and we use the tax record addresses, it came back as undeliverable and said there was no such address. I talked with the tax commissioner's office, and apparently they've sent the tax bill to that address, but it came back in 2023 and 2024. But I understand that the person who has filed the petition has actually spoken with the person that owns and lives in this house, and that this person is okay with the closure. But I believe the petitioner's here tonight. I'll let him further address that. If after conducting the public hearing, you find that abandonment of this county road, number 2085, also known as Birdie Lane, is warranted, and here's the standard: because it has ceased to be used by the public to the extent that no substantial public purpose is served by it, or its removal from the county road system is otherwise in the best public interest, then you may adopt the attached resolution to certify the abandonment of the road.
Okay, at this time I'll ask for a motion to open the floor to public comments.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All
Yeah.
in favor? And we have a unanimous decision there.
Okay. We have two people. We have two people on here. I'm not sure if you meant to sign up on the public hearing for the road closure, Sherry Barr and Jeremy Moy. I think I have you on public comments, just regular public comments. Jeremy? Regular?
I probably sound wrong.
Okay, so we have no one signed up for the road closure.
I'm sorry, I missed it. I was supposed to sign up. I'm the petitioner.
Okay, all right. So if you'll come forward and state your name and address.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm Joey Jones. I'm the owner of Groover Mill Farms, and I actually own the piece of land that this road splits in half. This road is 475 feet long, so it's not very long. And the reason why we're wanting to close it, it doesn't go anywhere. We are trying to stop people from trespassing and dumping trash down it. I spoke with Mr. Contreras on Friday afternoon. Personally, I went to his house myself. He also doesn't have any issues with us closing that road because his house faces W.H. Smith Road and he has access from that road. So he didn't give me any opposition, is what I'm trying to say. So we're asking for the permission to close that. He told me he did not have an issue with that, and I hope he came tonight, but I don't see him. But he told me he did not have an issue with it, so we're asking for permission to close that road.
And this is the only person here that's, we don't have anybody here to speak in opposition, is that correct? Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, sir. All right, thank you.
So, I will now ask for a motion on the resolution to abandon a portion of county, I will now ask for a motion to close the floor to public comments.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second. And, go ahead and call for a vote.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Oh, go ahead.
I will need to correct this resolution because it's not a portion of the road, it's the entire road. But you can vote on this resolution just with the acknowledgement that that will be corrected.
And I believe we have to call for discussion first as well.
Right.
So I stand corrected. We need to call for discussion first, is that correct? So we need a motion for discussion.
So move, Mr. Chairman. Second.
All in favor? And it's unanimous decision. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, would you yield, please?
Yes, sir, I will.
Oh, the main, Ms. Akins, what is the 911 address on that parcel that's down the road? Do you know?
Oh, well, I don't, the address on the tax records is 105 Birdie Lane.
Okay.
I assume that's the,
With that being stated, I don't have any problem closing the road, but if Mr. Jones would agree to not to stop that road until 911 and all can get the address changed over to the adjacent road that you're talking about. So if a fire truck or ambulance has to get to that residence, or if it's on fire, that way they won't pull that address up, so they'll know where they're going.
Yes, sir.
No problem with closing it, just don't close it until that address shows up on 911's screens.
No issues.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay.
So
Go ahead.
the motion, so what would be the motion then? Not to close the road until 911 figures out what they're gonna
no,
do?
I would just go ahead and make a motion to approve the resolution to close it. And that would just with the understanding that he won't block it off until the address is changed.
How will I know when the address is changed for 911 purposes?
I can let Charlie McCook know. Yeah. And I didn't realize that needed to be done, but,
Just for safety's sake.
Yeah, we thought that the other night.
you did? Okay. Yeah, I guess Shannon will be the one to do that. So I'll stay in touch with her and I'll let his attorney know.
Yeah, just,
But I would go ahead, if you want to close it, I would go ahead and make a motion to approve the resolution tonight. So,
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the resolution to close Birdie Lane.
All in favor? We have unanimous decision. Okay, next, before I entertain a motion to approve the general agenda, do I have any other discussion or modifications desired by the county manager or the board?
Mr. Chairman, I do. I would like to be able to put some public comment before the new business tonight, if that's doable. And also, we need to figure out if that's possible to do that at every meeting, so the public can comment on new business before we take a vote on it.
Well, I think that we're talking about two separate motions here.
Okay.
So the first one would be allowing the public comment for new business tonight. Do we have a second?
Would you restate that?
Just to have about a 3-minute section for public comment, talk about new business tonight. Because in the previous meetings, we don't have any way for the public to talk before we have new business, and I think that's something that the public needs to be able to have the opportunity to talk.
can I, weigh in on that, Mr. Chairman? The ordinance, and I didn't bring it with me tonight, but it basically says that public comments will be at the end of the agenda. But it also allows for the board by majority vote to allow public comment on an individual item on the agenda. So are you saying you'd like for them to have public comments on everything on the agenda or
Just on the new business part tonight, and then we need to work, I would like to figure out what we need to do to add that to a permanent, on the permanent agenda from here on out.
Well, you probably,
Let's see if the board
probably gonna
chooses
need to
to.
amend the ordinance or either have to vote on it at every meeting. I mean, yeah. I mean, under the current ordinance, you would need to vote on it every time you want to do that, so. So if you want to do it tonight, you need a motion and a second and a vote.
So as it stands right now, we're looking at our general agenda. If we want to discuss, or if we want public discussion with our new business, we need a motion to discuss or to allow public comment with our new business for each item there. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second on the floor. All in favor?
So we, discussion.
Any
So we-
discussion?
So we're having public comments on 1 and 2 of new business? Correct?
Just at the beginning of
Is that
new
right?
business.
So it's-
Yeah, I
it's
think it
per
would
each
need-
item, correct?
It would need to be done with each item, yeah, not just prior to new business as a whole.
Okay, so,
But I understood your motion. You're making a motion to allow public comment on each item under new business.
Just at the beginning of new business, just one time, and they can talk about whatever, as long as it pertains to the agenda.
Okay. I mean, I guess that's okay, but that's not really the way the ordinance.
well, let's make it
Presents
right and legal. So,
Well, it's like I said, I think the ordinance contemplates a motion to allow comment on a particular item on the agenda. Not a blanket motion to, I mean, but I guess you could, in the same in those one motion, you could make a motion to allow comments on each item under new business. So I think you would need to have the public comments, then consider the item that's on the agenda, then have public comments again on the next item. I think that's the way you're gonna have to do it unless y'all want to amend the ordinance to do it another way.
So, question, Mr. Chairman and County Attorney, so how does the motion need to be made? So tonight is, if I'm understanding correct, we're gonna allow public comments for item 1 and 2 on the new business. So how does that motion need to be?
I think that would be sufficient, what you just stated,
Okay.
yeah.
so under new business, we have 3 items.
Right, well, then you would need, yes, public comments. Do you want public comments on House Bill 581, because that's just a discussion item?
My plan was just have a general 3-minute per speaker to get up after you state the new business, but before you went off to each one and let the general public come up and speak if they have any issues against any 3 of them. Just do it one blanket time and they're done with it. And that's what I was envisioning.
And that's no public comment at the end. This is.
Well, they can still do, the new business would be just for the new business that night, and then the public
Mr.
comment at the
Newkirk, I
end.
think the way it needs to be done, though, is because if somebody has a particular issue with item 1, for example, or, no, let me put it another way. If they have an issue with item 2, I don't think that needs to be discussed prior to the consideration of item 1. That's probably gonna get kind of confusing. I would again say, and this is consistent with what the ordinance currently says, that you can allow comment on an item on the agenda by majority vote. Now, I don't think that means you have to have two different motions. If you want to allow comment on each of those items under new business, I think you can do that in one motion. But I think the comments need to be separated. In other words, they only need to address item one when item one is under consideration.
Okay.
Yeah. So is your motion, and you might want to restate it, was there a second?
Yeah, I think it was a motion and seconded, yes.
Okay.
So just to clarify, can we get a restatement of the motion, please?
Motion to allow public speaking on each individual item under new business.
And is that just items 1 and 2?
Yes.
And can we get a second, please? Okay, we have a second. Any discussion?
I'd like, now, this agenda was set up, I mean, how we gonna have a public discussion on an agenda that we put forth and we ain't even discussed it yet? Now, we were, this is the board up here. We were elected to talk about this here, and we'll be here all night if we're gonna keep doing this here. Now, the public discussion, they can talk about what we discussed after we done talked about it ourselves. This is just way out of order to me.
And I'm gonna defer back to our county attorney, who also by ordinance is our parliamentarian here, so.
Well, I think it would make sense to have the presentation of the agenda item and then then allow public comments on it. Because I'm not sure that the public, they may not know what to comment on if it hasn't been presented. They don't know all the details of it.
And that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
how
and
you
then
gonna
they-
comment
then
on
if somebody
something that
wants
we
to
haven't even
comment on
talked
it,
about?
they could comment, and then the board could take it under consideration. I mean, that's what I would suggest.
What's the compromise here, gentlemen? Can we have the presentation here and then allow for public comment?
Yeah, that'd be fine. I just know the public doesn't get to comment on any new business because it's not presented at the previous meeting, so they have no way to comment on new business.
So I'm gonna ask a question here again to the county attorney. Do we need to restate the motion for this?
I don't think so. I mean, I think you wanted to allow public comment on items 1 and 2, correct? And I think as chairman, you have the authority to decide when that occurs, but I'm just suggesting that it would make more sense for it to occur after whoever's presenting the item presents it. Because somebody may get up to make comments on something that they don't even understand what it's about. If that makes sense.
Any further discussion on this matter? And can we all agree that if we're gonna do this public comment, that it should be after these agenda items are discussed or presented?
I think we got a motion and we got a second. I think we need to vote on it and see whether we even want to do this. Am I right in that, Jeff?
Well, you do need to vote on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sooner or later.
So the discussion is complete. Let's go ahead and vote on this. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. Motion carries with, and all opposed? 1, 2. Motion carries with 4 in favor. So, now that we've had our discussion here, we've had our modifications. We're gonna go into our consent agenda. And I'm gonna read the entire consent agenda here. First item, approve the minutes from Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. Number 2, approve the renewal and upgrade of the annual service agreement with Bulloch Solutions for the countywide network and communication system. Number 3, approve and ratify payment for hauling service for J.L. DeRiso for week of December 16th through December 20th in the amount of $25,926.75. Number 4, approve the payment to Thompson Consulting Services for debris collection monitoring in the amount of $527,408.62. Number 5, grant a 2025 alcoholic beverage renewal license for packaged retail beer and wine sales to certain establishments with a current 2024 license. We can approve these items collectively, or we can move any items to new business for further discussions. Do I have a motion?
Motion to move the vote on all the items collectively, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, moving on to new business. Item number 1. Facilitator here is going to be County Engineer Brad Deal. Consideration of motion to approve a change order in the amount of $37,450 for additional design services with Parker Engineering on the Clark Farm Road design contract funded by T-Splost.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brad Deal, County Engineer. So, for those that are not aware, we are currently in the process of designing the paving of Clark Farm Road from US Highway 80 to the Candler County line, which is a little bit less than 2 miles. This proposed change order actually essentially has 2 parts to it. The first part is during the design, we identified an area that is basically a low area that holds a good bit of water when it rains. There's currently nowhere to discharge that water, so the water sits in the ditch and it sits on the road itself for a period of time. So the solution to that our design engineer came up with was to look at getting a drainage easement for a ditch to discharge that water into a wetland area that's nearby the road, so that water would have a place to go. We spoke to the property owner of that property, and he was actually very much in favor of this. He deals with the drainage issue on a regular basis, and he was very supportive of this idea to install a drainage easement. So there is a cost of $3,250 to prepare plat for the drainage easement and add that to the design plans. The second part of the change order, which is a little bit larger, we are, as part of the design, upgrading some of the cross drains under Clark Farm Road. A lot of that drainage, or a good portion of it, drains to WD Peacock Road, which is nearby, and that's another county-maintained dirt road. When we upsize the cross drains on Clark Farm Road, there's a need to upgrade the cross drain under WD Peacock Road. And the road is currently very low, and there's very little cover over the pipe, so we're going to have to build the road up a little bit to do that. So during the design, we felt like it would make sense to pave this portion of WD Peacock Road. It's only 1,900 feet long. And if you can see on the map that is on the screen, it's the red portion. So WD Peacock Road is already paved from US Highway 80 to Lake Collins Road, and this 1,900 foot section just goes beyond that to Clark Farm Road. And we felt like it would make sense to pave it from a standpoint for maintenance. You're going to have a good bit of sand washing into that drainage structure that we have to put in. And I think it would benefit the county and Public Works if we went ahead and paved that section so they would not have to continue doing dirt road maintenance on that short section of road in the middle. So that portion of the change order is $34,200, which includes the design, and then there is a small area of wetlands, and it would include the permitting for that wetlands. Clark Farm Road also has several areas of wetlands on it as well that we're having to go through permitting on as well. So with that, I would recommend approval on this, but I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What would the price be if we just replace the pipes and not pave the road? Because I know obviously the engineering for the road paving is going to be 32. How much is the anticipated price to pave that entire road, the 1,900 feet?
I'd say, just estimating, since we don't have actual bids on it at this point, my estimate would be you'd be somewhere around $350,000 to pave that section of road based on the distance.
Okay.
Compared to some recent prices we've gotten on other roads. To just replace the pipe, yeah, it would be significantly less than that. You would probably be looking at somewhere 10,000 or less to do that part of it. And in building a road up, maybe you're in the 20,000 range to do that. So yeah, there would be a significant cost difference.
Okay.
Brad, we got the funds for that? Got 1,900 more feet, I mean, without hurting ourselves, or what other projects, I know we got.
Yeah, well, currently, I think this fiscal year, I believe we have $600,000 in T-Splosh funds budgeted for the project. Now, that was, some of that money, I think, was the thought was it would be used towards the construction. And then we have another, I think, $500,000 or so in the next fiscal year budgeted for the road. Based on prices we've been getting, even if we did not do Peacock Road at all, or I should say not pave that section of Peacock Road, I think that the cost to pave Clark Farm Road is probably going to go beyond the money that we budgeted based on recent prices we've been seeing. Recently we had bids that came in on Two Chop Road, and if you kind of extrapolate the same prices, it's probably going to go a little bit beyond what we had originally budgeted for Clark Farm Road, and those prices have changed a good bit the last couple of years. But I think the thought, as far as a benefit to the county to doing it, in my mind, was just the maintenance of the dirt road section. And since it is kind of a short section, Public Works would have to maintain a dirt section that's kind of in between two paved areas, and that was just. There is only one house on that 1,900-foot section of road, so there's not a lot of. I don't know how much traffic it gets. It may not get. I'm going to guess it probably doesn't get a lot of traffic. So.
How much is the projected, my bad, Toby, were you finished? How much is the projected cost so far on that Clark Farm Road that you're guessing off of the numbers that you've been seeing?
I would guess it's going to be between, I would say, $2 to $2.5 million in that range for the entire project. That would be an estimate. Probably closer, somewhere 2.25, somewhere in that range.
Brad, Clark Farm Road's been on the paving list for how long?
So the petition came in before I was working with the county originally, and the county started acquiring the right-of-way before I was working here. Project kind of got put on the back burner during that, I guess, the first few years that I was here. So we're going back and trying to complete the project, get it finished. So I know it's probably been in 10 years or more, just roughly guessing.
Has Peacock got a petition yet?
No, it hasn't. Or not that section. Now, there's part of it that's already paved, like I said, coming off of Highway 80, but.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, really quick as well, just give a little bit of history. He's correct, that project has been on the CIP for a long time, but it was done before we had T-Splosh funds. And so now that we have T-Splosh funds, we have the ability to get some of these roads done that we never had the ability to do before. And I know our CFO is in the audience now, but I feel pretty confident that we have T-Splosh funds that we can spend on this. And just as a reminder, we do our CIP 5 years in advance. So if in the end we determine that there's a shortfall somewhere, there's plenty of other projects, in the future, because we do that 5 years in advance. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I just would like to comment to the fact that I've ridden this area probably 3 times over the last couple of months. And I would say that for public works or whatever, it would be beneficial to look at and see if we could include this portion there, because when we look at the money that's utilized to pick up equipment and go work this small area, again, I think the map provides a good depiction there, but somebody would go out to the area and look, it just makes sense that this is included.
Is that curve on Peacock going to be straightened out at all? It was a very sharp curve whenever I looked at it yesterday.
Yeah, it's, we would probably, it depends on the right-of-way negotiations with the property owner. If, you know, they're not very amenable to us shifting the road, we might have to get creative in the design and how we do that. It is going to require, you know, the road to be shifted and get more right-of-way on one side as opposed to the other to straighten it out some. But that is something we would have to get into negotiations with the property owner. But yes, that would be probably the objective. And normally, we would get a 60-foot right-of-way, and in that 60-foot right-of-way, we would remove the trees and vegetation, which would open up the sight distance, helping you as you go around the curve as well.
Any further discussion from the commissioners? I think based on the motion that we had earlier, we're going to open the floor now to public discussion. Excuse me. Mr. Deal, do you have any other comments that you'd like to make?
No, sir, I think that was all.
Do we have anybody in the public that would like to make any comments about this? Going once. Going twice. This time, we're going to close the floor to public comments on this motion. Any further discussion? Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask for a motion on this agenda item.
Are we doing this as two different ones or just one lump sum on that? Because one's for the engineering on one phase and the other one's on the second phase.
So we have this listed as two separate agenda items.
Well, a change order, I guess, was actually presented on there as one item.
Okay.
I would probably have to ask this question, but
All right, so here we go again, Jeff.
Well, I understood it just to be a change order with the design firm, is that right? Parker Engineering?
that's correct.
Yeah, so I think that's the only thing you're approving tonight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this time, I'm going to call for a motion on agenda item number 1, the change order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the change order.
Second.
Okay. All in favor? And motion passes with unanimous decision. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 2. Consideration of a motion to approve an application to GDOT for available local maintenance and improvement grant funding in the amount of $1,800,000, or let me try this again. $1,831,816.96 to be used for county road resurfacing. And I'm going to yield the floor again to Mr. Deal, County Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is an annual grant that GDOT makes available to all the counties and cities in the state. And the funding comes from the motor fuel tax, and there's a formula that includes the county's road mileage as well as population that determines what our share of it is. We have always, typically since I've been here, used the LMIG funds for our resurfacing. The reason for that is we have a good bit of need in the area of resurfacing. We've got 550 miles of paved roads, and we supplement that with our T-SPLOST funds. You have to provide a 30% match to the funds that you get from GDOT. And so I think on the screen, we put the proposed list that we developed. And I think you'll notice on the list at the bottom, we've got $715,000 that we reserved for patching and possibly some resurfacing and some subdivisions. The reason we do that every year, we have either due to weather or other factors, we have some places that develop on some of our roads that are damaged beyond the point of what Public Works internally can patch. So we usually have to contract some of those out. So we try to keep some money available for that every year. And we plan to use some of that money for some crack sealing and other things which are a little cheaper, but keep our roads lasting longer without the cost of necessarily resurfacing all of them as well. So, but if you have any questions on that, please let me know.
Just right there, I see Brooklet Denmark Road from city limits all the way up to 67. I know there's going to be a lot of new construction going on in front of the school, probably widening. Would it be wise not to pave about a mile stretch in front of the school and save that for somewhere else until they finish up the school and then come back to that? I hate to see new asphalt get tore up.
Yeah, we could look at that. My thought on it is the road with the condition that it's in now, I think you're going to see some pretty rapid deterioration in it due to the amount of cracking that's on it. And it's already, I think, in some places starting to come apart. And what I foresee happening is that's going to be a pretty large burden on our Public Works Department to keep patching that area. I think if we resurface it in the way that we normally go about it, we can build it in such a way where I'm not going to say it's going to be 100% foolproof, but I think we can make it to where it'll be resistant as much as possible to any damage from the construction traffic coming in and out. Because that road has experienced a lot of deterioration within the last couple of years, we've noticed. But if you guys, if that is something that, you wanted to do, we could, probably skip an area of that or something, or, it is open to, we could edit this list, so that wouldn't be an issue necessarily.
If you want to, that's all it was, just something,
Yeah.
because they're going to be putting turning lanes, et cetera, on it. So I mean, it's a recommendation. Y'all do what you want to with it.
I got you.
Any other discussion? Okay, well, at this time, I'm gonna open up the floor to the public. Any public comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a question for Brad. For the West Drive Circle Drive project, is that going to take care of that hole that's been there for years on Circle Drive at the termination of West Drive?
I believe, I'm gonna have to check and see if that's in the, I think that is in the area that we were gonna resurface. I did get a phone call about that, last week maybe, or it was either last week or this week. Can't really remember for sure, but, regardless of whether it was in the, because I think that section is closer to Highway 80, is that right? Or no?
No, it's right at the end of West Drive, where West Drive comes into Circle Drive.
In the Circle Drive, okay, yeah. I think that is in the area, but if it was not, we could use some of what we've got there for patching, but I think that was included in the part that we were gonna resurface in.
Yeah, the county's just been working on it for years.
Right. I will verify that and check it, but one way or the other, we can fix it though, yeah.
Any other public comments? Okay. At this time, I will now ask for a motion on this agenda item.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Motion passes with unanimous decision. Okay, at this time, I'm now gonna ask, our county attorney, Mr. Jeff Akins, to come up and, lead a discussion here on House Bill 581, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to talk briefly about House Bill 581 that passed in the last session of the General Assembly, because one of the provisions has a tight time deadline. Yes.
Would you turn your podium around the other way so you can face the audience? I think we all are pretty familiar with this. I'd like
Okay.
to speak to the folks out there on this one, please.
Okay, well, I'll do that. Although the time deadline is something for the board. Am I tearing something up? There's a lock wheel. Okay, I'll let somebody else turn it around.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you break everything up here.
Okay. House Bill 581 does several things, but tonight I'm only going to discuss two. It authorizes a new local option sales tax of up to 1% for property tax relief. And secondly, it implements a new statewide homestead exemption, which was authorized in the constitutional amendment that passed in the 2024 general election. And I believe it passed by around 65%. Subject to approval in a referendum, the new sales tax can be imposed in 0.5% increments up to a maximum of 1%. And each jurisdiction receiving a portion of the sales tax, which would include the county and all municipalities within the county, must provide property tax relief in the form of a millage rollback equivalent to the net proceeds of the sales tax received in the prior year. However, there are two condition precedents or prerequisites to a county calling for a referendum on this sales tax. First, there must be an intergovernmental agreement between the county and the municipality or municipalities that represent at least 50% of the county's total municipal population. And in our case, that would be the county and Statesboro. And secondly, the county and all of its municipalities must have in effect a base year value or adjusted base year value homestead exemption, commonly referred to as a floating homestead exemption. And this brings me to the second provision of House Bill 581, which is the implementation of a statewide adjusted base year value homestead exemption, which provides that the assessed value of your homestead cannot increase beyond the rate of inflation each year, with the rate of inflation being determined by the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue based on a standardized method such as the CPI. However, House Bill 581 further allows any county, consolidated government, municipality, or school district to opt out of the homestead exemption by holding 3 public hearings and adopting a resolution to opt out that must be filed with the Secretary of State by March 1st. And this is the primary reason I'm discussing this tonight, and this was for the board, so y'all can hear me, so I don't guess I have to turn the podium back around. Because if by some chance you wanted to opt out of the homestead exemption, and I'm not suggesting or recommending that you do so, you would have to take action almost immediately to start that process in order to meet the deadline. But you need to understand that if the county or any one of the municipalities opts out of the homestead exemption, then the option for another 1% local option sales tax for property tax relief will no longer be available. Because as I mentioned, a condition precedent to calling for a referendum for the new sales tax is that the county and all the municipalities must have a base year value or adjusted base year value homestead exemption in place. Now some counties already have that because it can be done through local legislation through the General Assembly as well. But the county here does not have that. None of the cities have it. So if any one of those entities opts out, then we're not going to have that option to have another 1% sales tax. And again, I want to emphasize it requires that to be used for property tax relief. It goes in the general fund. It's not like SPLOST where it can only be used for capital. It goes in the general fund. It's used for operations, and you have to roll back the millage rate in an amount equivalent to what you received the previous year. Now, the opt-out that does not apply to the Board of Education. The Board of Education could opt out, and it would not affect the ability to go forward with the sales tax. So I'll be glad to try and answer any questions you may have, and I think Mr. Fisher from the Tax Assessor's Office is here. Mr. Chairman, I believe you would wanted him to be present as well. He knows, I'm sure, more about it, all the details than I do, but my main purpose was to say if y'all wanted to opt out, you need to start right away because very tight time frame. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fisher. I appreciate you coming up and, please, if you have anything that you could add to what Mr. Akins has shared, I appreciate you providing that insight to the audience here.
My name is Robert Fisher. I'm the Deputy Chief Appraiser for the Tax Assessor's Office here, and I'll just speak to you about the implementation of this exemption, how it'll affect the property owners of Bulloch County. Right now, we have roughly 8,700 properties receiving a homestead exemption currently. Every one of those property owners, if this homestead exemption were to go in place in Bulloch County, would automatically receive this exemption. There would be no requirement for them to come reapply for this exemption. If you're not receiving an exemption currently, which we estimate 5,000 to 6,000 homeowners are not, you would have until April 1st of this year to apply. House Bill 581 has another change that affects property owners, and that is the notice of assessment that you receive typically in middle to the end of May formally had an estimate of taxes at the bottom. House Bill 581 has removed that estimate of taxes. The legislature deemed that that was a confusing number as it was based off of a prior year's millage rate. So that is a big change that a lot of our property owners are not going to expect when they open that notice in May. It's not going to have a dollar amount of estimate of taxes. It will just have the fair market value and a taxable value based off of this new homestead exemption. As Mr. Akins alluded to, the sales tax offset is really the biggest benefit of this new homestead exemption. The homestead exemption is going to limit the amount your assessed value can increase. It does not limit the amount your taxes can increase. Taxes can increase based off of the needs of the county, the cities, or the schools and their millage rates. If there is a budgetary need that a county has, the assessment cap is not going to stop an increase in taxes beyond what that inflation rate is. But in the long term, this exemption has been tried in several states, and it has generally provided homeowners to stay in their home for a long period of time, a decent benefit compared to what currently is offered. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that were from the public or the commissioners.
I might add, Bobby, what you just alluded to, homeowners that stay in their home for a long period of time, because when you sell your home, the value jumps up to what it would be without the exemption, and then the new owner, if they have the homestead, it
That's
starts
correct.
over.
It also allows for any additions or improvements to the property that the property owner performs to be adjusted onto that base. So if you have an addition on your home, the base value can be adjusted greater than the rate of inflation to account for that new addition.
Do the commissioners have any comments or questions this time? And again, I just want to clarify that the intent of this was, we're not taking any action on this tonight. This is just purely informational. Mr. Akins wanted to reinforce to the board that the way this is set up is that if we take no action, this will go into place as it is. The only way that anything will change is if we take action to opt out. And if we are going to do that, we would have to start to do it now. This board has not taken any action to do anything at this point. And I'll just leave that at that. So, moving on. At this time, I will recognize those citizens who have signed up to address the board. Once your name is called, please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record. State your name and address for the record. Comments are important. And make your comments. All speakers who are recognized will be allotted 5 minutes. I just want to remind everybody that our local ordinances talk about decorum, and it states that your public comments are supposed to be addressed to the chairman of the board, and I would appreciate it if you would do that and not address them to the staff members or the county employees. And please refrain from any type of attacks against any of the commissioners or the other staff members in the room.
We have Gloria Jennings. Okay, Jeremy Moy.
Hey, my name is Jeremy Moy. I live at 2515 Watering Hole Court, Pulaski Point. I have pictures if y'all want to see them. I'm here asking for assistance again. We have a horrible flooding problem in Pulaski Point. Continues to flood. There's an obvious problem. When Helene came through and knocked all the, probably hundreds of trees down, our sole drainage system is the creek behind Pulaski Point. It is bottled up. Oh, sorry. It is, the water will not flow. We're seeking assistance in removing the debris. We can only do so much. I've talked with a few other commissioners. Mr. Newkirk's very familiar with, he's looked into it. He's had some great ideas. There's also a question as to, our neighborhood is not county maintained. It's been there for almost 30 years. The person that still technically owns the neighborhood says it's the county's responsibility. The county is saying it's his responsibility. We need clarification. They say lawyers need to be involved. But we're just seeking assistance. Every avenue we've gone down, we've hit a roadblock between engineers, things like that. There's, like I've told before, there's 10 feet of drop from my house to Country Club Road to the culverts that are blown out at Country Club Road. There's an obvious problem between the two. I have pictures. There's way more pictures than that. As far as manpower, I've come to the county about, they say it's private property. They can't touch it. Well, I've personally talked to the Corps of Engineer. They say you can do it. I have 9 homeowners as of right now that will give permission to go in there and clean it out. They said that you can, after we have permission, you can get a buffer variance from them. They'll tell you exactly what to do. We need assistance. Like I said, we're a ticking time bomb. I know 49 days ago when one of our other neighbors spoke, Roy said, asked if 3 individuals could help. Nothing. We haven't had any assistance yet. He also made the comment of how do you deal with 12 to 14 inches of rain? I agree. We can't deal with 2 to 4 inches of rain. 2 to 4 inches of rain will flood again. We've had a couple insurances already canceling their policies. So I don't know what the answer is, but I've been told that it's up to the board. The individual companies or whoever that will come in and clean it out will do whatever the board tells them to do. So I appreciate any assistance we can get. And as far as of right now, I mean, we have neighbors in there right now that have debris piled up in the front yards. They probably have no idea that the county's not going to come in there and touch that. It's not county maintained. Road signs, the county's not going to do any of that. It's a match between like I said, the person that still technically owns the roads and says he doesn't, and the county. So, I appreciate it.
How many other folks are here tonight from Pulaski Point?
Probably about half the neighborhood.
How many of y'all signed up to speak tonight?
We just let one to speak for all of us, but we all can agree. We're desperate. We need help. We are stressed out. We're scared every time, like this last week, rain. Everybody parking their cars out in a higher point, getting ready for the worst. We can't build back up because there's no point. We get flooded again, we start it all over again.
I've done it
We're-
twice. Sorry, I've done it twice. We
It's-
rebuilt. Couple weeks before Thanksgiving, come again. I mean, it wiped out everything. So.
August 7th,
yeah,
Debbie.
but we can't because we're scared that it's gonna get flooded again. Then it's just, then the insurance probably, kick in and say, we're gonna have to decline you because.
Our insurance dropped us. We've been struggling to find another flood insurance. It tripled. The same insurance that dropped us came back 2 weeks later with a triple quote. And everywhere we ask around, everybody's just asking for way too much.
We need somebody to take the time to look at the creek, an engineer, someone really, because that's the main problem. The Band-Aid that, with insurance, shouldn't be relied on. The creek, which runs behind
All of our houses.
all the homes, is overflowing. And every time it rains, Hurricane Debbie, Helene sent branches down into the creek, and then that hard rain in November just flooded us twice. And him and the speaker's mother is living in a camper.
It flooded as well. The August 7th was Debbie, flooded the first time. Helene came through the 26th of September, knocked all the trees down. Then that unnamed storm came through November 7th, flooded the exact same way again. Everything we managed to salvage from the first one that didn't get damaged, including our upper cabinets we had down on the floor to rebuild, all that got destroyed. So everything we owned was destroyed. And it's our only drainage system in that neighborhood. There's question as to whether the neighborhood should have been built or was built correctly. I mean, that's neither here nor there now. We have to live with it. All we're asking for is assistance, and it is a creek, but it's a drainage system. It has to be maintained. When all these trees, when hundreds of trees get blown down from a storm, who's responsible for cleaning it up? I don't know. I can only do so much with my chainsaw on my property, but yeah, it's unreal.
Basically, it's a group of heavy equipment. We don't have the budget or the manpower for the equipment.
And county officials that have come and walked the neighborhood said they had the equipment. They just need to be told to do it. The exact words were, "We will do what y'all tell them to do."
It didn't flood until there was buildings built into the wetland.
Yeah, that's another issue. There's,
Main road.
the creek divides our property lines. It is now rerouted straight through my property. It's rerouted in several different places.
And it's not a straight line. It goes down, turns, goes this way, turns. It's not like it's not like a straight flow. It's just, not to mention all the debris and
There's still water out there. Normally it would have dried up before, but after we've got all the trees and debris, there's still water everywhere out there.
So let's do this. I think everybody up here is empathetic to what y'all are dealing with right now. This is where it gets challenging. We are all limited by what the law says that we can and cannot do. And I can tell you that there have been a lot of conversations today and over the last few days about this, is trying to determine what the left and right limit of that is. At the end of the meeting today, can you give your number to Ms. Venus?
Absolutely.
And, we can get some folks to sit down and talk with you. I'm not the guy. I'd like to get Mr. Akins and Mr. Deal and, Corey Kemp and.
We've already had meetings, several of them. But I'd like for y'all to be involved with them.
And I'm happy to sit down and talk with you as well, and we'll get a couple other commissioners. But,
That's great.
You know, we're not done.
Oh, yeah, anything, you know.
But I think that there's gonna be some more conversations here. This isn't just us. It's gonna involve the Corps engineers and some other stuff. And I don't wanna promise you that, you know, we're gonna make everything right.
Oh, I don't know.
But, you know, we'll do what we can. Okay.
And I'm sure y'all have, because avenues of getting hold of the Corps engineer, it is hard.
You know, but this is something that, it's a challenge.
And I'm not sure if any other neighborhoods in Bulloch County are facing the same thing we're facing right now. I don't personally, I may be wrong, but I don't personally know of one that is in danger of 2 inches of flood, 2 inches of rain flooding again every time. So. All right.
How soon
Thank
are you thinking that we could get this meeting together? Because I guess I feel like time is really important.
What are you looking at there, Mr. Akins?
You mean time-wise? I mean,
We looking at a week, 2 weeks?
yeah, probably within the next couple of weeks. I mean, we'll just have to see when everybody's available, but,
I'm available whenever y'all.
We all have anxiety attacks. It's gonna be raining towards the end of this week.
I'm hoping that we'll get with you next week. How about that?
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
May I make one statement also? In the last 2 years, each year, our taxes have doubled now.
Leisha Neville.
I got shocked. Good evening. It's evening now. My name's Leisha Neville. I live in 82 Shack Road, Register, Georgia. First, I need to apologize. That's my Dexcom sensor that keeps going off, and I can't do anything about it. It's not connecting, so I'm sorry if it's been interrupting the meeting. I can't do anything about it. One other thing, before I say what I really came up here to say, when y'all had that, the list up there, could we maybe like at the next meetings have it a little bit larger for the older people who can't see? It wasn't just me, there was like other people. We couldn't see the list, like when they were asking questions about the list, we couldn't read it because seemed really small this time. Okay, so now what I'm really here for is to welcome all of the new commissioners to the board and to welcome the older commissioners back to the board. This week will also be the first meeting of the Board of Education, and we'll be swearing in 3 new officers too. I have great hopes for the direction that we'll be going in Bulloch County, and I just wanted to come up and remind for the ones that have heard this every single time you have a meeting, and ask for the others, if we could please try to work together with the city, the county, and the Board of Education in the plans that we make for our county. Just like the instance that was brought up about the road paving, I think it was Brooklet, Denmark. Well, that might not exactly, you might think, well, that has nothing to do with the Board of Education. And it really, I mean, it doesn't as far as paving the road. But at the same time, it all works together. You know, where the schools are, the traffic, and all of the people. And I just think that if we could all work together and kind of plan together. I don't expect y'all to come, to the Board of Education every time you want to build something and say, hey, you got enough room in your school. But it would be a good idea if we looked at all of these things together to make sure that we're not putting a burden in one part of the county, like right now, or another part of the county, and just tried to work together and as much as we can. We can't work on everything together, obviously, but I don't think that we need to be necessarily split into three different ways because we're all in this together. We're all in this county together. We all live here. We all love this county, and we want what's best for the county. So I just want to ask that again and remind you that I can't speak for everybody on the Board of Education, but I can definitely speak for myself and a couple of people on there that I know that I've already talked to that are more than happy for us all to work together and plan out our goals for Bulloch County, I guess is the word. So, thank you.
Ms. Sherry Barr.
Thank you, Ms. Venus. Good afternoon, Chairman Bennett. I am here to speak to you and to all the newcomers and to the folks who are recurring here. I want to amen what Alicia said about folks working together. In the 5 years I've been attending these meetings, since I had the privilege of being elected to represent District 5 and serve on Statesboro City Council in the last 3 years, as Mayor Pro Tem. I've been very pleased to come and attend and to watch and to observe what goes on at the county. I've been grateful for opportunities for us to work together. There have been many, and we have done that well in many instances. I have observed that the elected officials here have done a good job and all cared about the county and did their very best, those returning and those who've already retired. I want to applaud and congratulate the new people coming on. I think you all have good hearts and good intentions and the intention to work together. If you haven't already discovered it, I'm sure recently you're seeing that you're inheriting an excellent staff, a leadership team that's been here a while, doing what they do, that knows how to do their job, and are very willing. I'm very appreciative of the staff of Bulloch County, just like the staff at the City Hall and City of Statesboro. We have some of the best people in Georgia working to make Statesboro and Bulloch County an excellent place to live. So congratulations, welcome aboard. I look forward to working with all of you, and I applaud all of the folks you have helping you to do a good job of taking care of all of us. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So this time, do we have any comments from commissioners or staff? And I believe we're going to start with the staff comments first.
Come on. Well, hello, Chairman. First time addressing you, commissioners, and staff. I'm just coming today. My name is Ben Tapley. I'm the Bulloch County Fire Chief. And it's going to get, if it didn't know, it's a little bit chilly out, and it's going to get colder. So one thing we wanted to do is discuss a little bit about tips that we can do to be fire safe during this time, especially when it's dipping in the 20s for extended periods of time at night. Just trying to keep everybody safe. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to my Fire Prevention Chief, Joe Carter.
Good evening. Joe Carter, Prevention Chief, Fire Department. Appreciate all of you being here and allowing us time to speak. A couple of quick things, as he just stated, not restating the obvious, but we are going to have some cold weather, and with that it brings challenges. Typically, 1 in every 7 home fires occurs because of heating, and 1 in every 5 home fire deaths occur because of heating. So that's a big issue. We just want to make the public aware, some quick things that you can do. We do have folks that burn wood chimneys. Folks need to have their chimneys cleaned and inspected regularly. We try to tell people to do that annually because cracks in the mortar can lead to attic fires. Space heaters, you know, I'm sure if anybody's watched the news in the last 10 years, you realize that space heaters are an issue. We remind everybody to keep an appropriate distance, at least 3 feet from any combustibles. Make sure that they're unplugged if they're not in use. A lot of people have the habit of just turning them off. We don't want to do that. We want to make sure they're unplugged. We want to make sure that they're UL tested and that they've been tested to make sure that they function adequately. Smoke alarms, that's a big deal. We want to make sure that people have their smoke alarms. We want to make sure that they test them at least biannually when the time changes. We'd also like to make sure that they have them in the appropriate places in sleeping quarters and on every floor of a residence. Carbon monoxide alarms, as with home heating. Some people heat with propane, so anybody using fuel gas, whether it be for an oven, whether it be for propane heat, want to make sure that they have carbon monoxide available, alarms available. If they're wood burning, again, ashes, we want them to store them in a metal can with a tightly secured lid, at least 10 feet from the residence. That way we don't generate a fire that burns to the residence. And, you know, power outages, make sure if you're running generators, you're following the appropriate generator safety tips. We just want the people to stay safe. We want the public to be safe. Obviously, it's cold. If you've got pets, you need to make arrangements for your pets so that they're not freezing outside. And have an exit drill. Make sure you know how to get out of your house if you have a fire. Exit drills in the home. Take care of your family, take care of your children, and make sure that you go over that so that when the time comes, it's second nature and not the first time this is occurring. Any questions? Anything that I can do for you, let me know. Cool.
Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
your service.
Any other staff comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a few. If there's any other staff, is there anybody else? If there's not, then I'll just make a couple of comments. I sent you all an email, but I just wanted to kind of verbally reiterate that, what I stated in the email. You all recall that you voted to terminate the Statesboro Fire Agreement at your December 3rd meeting. We need to, and the purpose of that was to renegotiate. I just want to remind you of that. But we need to get some meetings scheduled to start that renegotiation process. So I did send a correspondence to the city manager today, listed out a couple of dates or several dates. And so once I have a few nailed down, I will get in contact with you all to see how you want to move forward with that. But I think we probably need to get started with that sooner rather than later. The second thing is the well mitigation committee. We need to go ahead and start thinking about a process to get those members appointed. If you recall, the plan states that we should have up to 3 members, individuals that are citizens on the committee. I, from previous discussions with you all, understood that you would like to do an application process. So I've drafted an application that's ready to go. I just need some feedback from you all on when you want to release it and how long you want to solicit those candidates for, and I'll be happy to do that. So any feedback that you can give me on that would be appreciated, and I'll just pause and let you give me feedback before I move on to the next item. Any ideas?
By you mean feedback, the commission's gonna get to look at the applications?
Sure. I mean, and I think that's something that's up for discussion, is how do y'all want to select? You know, I think that between the 7 of y'all, you need to determine, do you want an interview committee? How do you want to handle this? So all of that is up for discussion.
I think we need to, probably form an interview committee with some of the commissioners.
Okay.
That's my idea. I don't know if anybody else wants to do that.
And then all of them come in front of us and vote on what we normally do? Whatever you give, then get a group of 6 or whatever, and we vote on 3 out of that 6 or whatever.
Probably so.
Is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, if you appoint a formal committee, just remember that'll be subject to Open Meetings Act, the Open Meetings Act, which I'm not saying that's good or bad. It's just, that's going to require, you know, notice to the media, minutes, everything you're doing in this meeting. So just be aware of that.
Yeah.
So I think the most immediate decision that needs to be made is if y'all are ready for the application to be publicized so we can start soliciting applicants. And it looks like everybody's nodding their head. So if you're ready to do that, do you have any opinion on how long you'd like to keep the application open? Or do you want me just to maybe at the next meeting tell you how many we've received and kind of go from there and decide that's enough, we're ready to close it off? And
When do we have to have this committee put together? Is it what, March 25th?
well, the sooner the better, because the purpose of the committee is to rework the plan if it's needed and make any recommendations on it. But I think in March was when the process was really going to start kicking off. Not necessarily be in process, but it'll start kicking off. So the sooner we can get it done, the better. And then that committee can offer any feedback to you to tweak the plan any.
But what you're asking for now is just to talk about the application.
The application process itself, that's correct.
To release that.
That's right, yes. And if everybody is ready for us to release that, then we will get that publicized tomorrow. And then if you're not sure how many days you want to keep it open, my recommendation would be at the next meeting, which is the 21st, I'll just report back to you on how many applicants we've received. And if you're happy with that, we'll close it down. If you're not, we'll keep it open for another 15 days or something along those lines. But we have some time to decide how you want to interview or select candidates. So, but right now, we'll just focus on the application itself.
I think,
Cindy, can we put that together for the application committee and for the mitigation committee? If you want to be on either one of them, you need to come up here and sign up. That way, when we put the application committee together, then we'll done have a list of the names of the people that's interested in being on the, so that way they can just roll forward instead of waiting so long to do the application committee, and then we got to wait and advertise it in the paper again for the, if you're interested in the wells and all that, you need to put your name on the paper and let's
Yeah,
go.
so I think you're separating the same thing into two things. So yeah, everybody that's interested in serving on the committee just applies, that's it.
And that is,
But-
that's 3 from Bulloch and 3 from Bryan, the 2 counties.
That's right. And my understanding is that Bryan County has already appointed their 3.
Okay.
And I think maybe where I confused you is if you wanted to do sort of a selection committee, interview some people, you know, if a few of y'all wanted to interview. But that's something that y'all can decide amongst yourselves, but we have some time to figure that out.
Okay.
I think we're good with just going ahead and
Doing the
solicit
application.
for applications.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, just plan on reporting back to us at our next meeting. That's the
First,
21st.
yeah,
So that's 14 days.
yeah, I agree. I think that's good. All right, and then
Yes.
Any objections there? You all right?
the last item that I also talked about in the email that I just wanted to bring to your attention to be thinking about is I need some feedback on how you want to go about recruiting a county manager. You all know that I've recommended a recruitment firm, and as I stated in the email, they generally have a wider talent pool, access to a wider talent pool and in-depth knowledge of local government market. They can help screen applicants to make sure that you're getting someone with the correct experience. If that is the route that you want to go, we have drafted a document to solicit requests for proposals. So we can work with our purchasing manager to get that out into all of our different marketplaces where we solicit all of our bids and requests for services. And so what would then happen, let's say it may be out there solicited for 30 days, and then the recruitment firms would submit their proposals to us, and then you all would look at those proposals and decide on which firm you want to go with. If there's another way that you all want to go about the recruitment, that's perfectly fine too. I just wanted you to know that I have it ready to go. I just think that we need some feedback on how you want to move forward.
Do you want us to do that tonight, or do you just want us to come by your office, or what? How do you?
Any way that you can give me feedback is fine. You don't need to vote on anything tonight. I think if you just have if there's a general understanding that you all want to put the RFP out, then that's what we'll do. Just simply soliciting the RFP doesn't lock you into anything. So if anything, it buys you a little bit of time while we're getting those submissions. So I don't think it'll hurt to put it out, and it kind of gets you a step ahead of the game, even if you change your mind on how you want to go about the recruitment.
So I'm very much an advocate for the idea of getting a professional search committee together And as I've talked to folks in the public about this, I said that the idea, I look at this as like recruiting a quarterback for, the Georgia Bulldogs. We wouldn't just recruit locally. We want to get the best talent that we can. And, to do that, we would go out and look everywhere we could to get that best talent. And by soliciting a professional search committee or a talent search group, they're gonna help us to do that. So,
I agree with that.
so the sooner we can go ahead and start that, the better. The other thing that I've told folks is that, I recognize that you have an expiration date. Not that you may know that, but I recognize that you are doing two people's jobs right now. And eventually, you're gonna get tired of doing that. I appreciate what you're doing right now, but you can't do this forever. Sooner or later, your endurance is gonna wear, you're gonna get tired of it. I don't wanna wait till this is a crisis before we intervene. So, the sooner we can start on this, the better.
I appreciate that. I will get that process started. Thank you. That's all the comments that I had.
Any comments from the commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a comment. I guess it'd be to Brad on the subdivision thing. I mean, I understand about the wetlands and the Corps of Engineers and all that. And I can tell you, I've had a lot of experience with that. There's a couple of simple questions that keeps bouncing around. It ought to be plumb easy for anybody that owns any property there or the county engineer to tell me who owns that road. I mean, they say this one says he does and that says he don't. It's on a deed and it's recorded at the courthouse. And that's the reason that's on the court deed, recorded at the courthouse. So that's a simple question that could be answered either by these folks or for these folks. Now, I can tell you that you hear that, oh, they say you go down there and you just tell them what to do and they do that. I can promise you ain't nobody gonna stick their big toe in them wetlands without a letter from the Corps of Engineers and the EPD signed, sealed, and delivered for every one of them pieces of property. Nobody that owns any construction company or anything, I can tell you. I mean, they might, but they'll get broke from the habit real quick, I can tell you. Now, with that being said, when you have this meeting, them questions ought to be out the way. I mean, if somebody talked to somebody at the Corps and they said, yeah, it's fine, go ahead, we ain't gonna have no problem to snap it and hand them a letter. They can hand it to you, and then we'll go from there. Because I've done had to pay, and I can tell you the county don't want to have to pay. And not only that, there's a lot of this that goes on, and me and the chairman's had discussions, and people say, well, they say that you can take county inmates and all, and you can go on private property. And I'm not no lawyer, and I'm not going to argue one way or another, but I can tell you this. You want me to carry 12 convicted felons that state inmates and put them on your private property that they just hunting a reason to get hurt anyhow? Well, the first thing that one of the lawyers is going to do is they're going to sue the state of Georgia because that's their inmate. Next thing they're going to do is they're going to sue the county. And you know what the poor property owner's going to get? He going to get sued too by the inmate's family. So I just wanted to highlight some of that for everybody. A lot of people say, well, get them in there. There's a lot more to it than just go down in them woods and clean them trees out. Now, you can do it manually, but you ain't gonna put no machine in there and mess that root mat up. I got a $30,000 thing I can show you that you don't wanna do.
I think, as far as inmates, I think there's some specific state laws against inmates working on private property. I
Yes,
don't
Mr.
believe
Tackett,
that's, I don't believe that's a possibility.
Yeah, I wasn't, but we get a lot of people that ask that, and I know you can't, but they have a hard time understanding, and my point being is, if they back off and think about it, they really don't want them on their private property anyhow. You don't want 12 convicted felons. I mean, most people try to keep convicted felons off their property, but, that point being made.
Right. And I think the question on the roads, we've researched that in the past, and the right-of-way in that subdivision has never been turned over to the county.
No,
I think the reason for that partially was the drainage and the way it was built. It didn't meet county standards, so we didn't accept it. I think maybe about a couple of years ago, we were requested to take over maintenance of those roads. We went in and looked at it and made a list of things that would have to be corrected for the county to take it over. I think that was passed on to the developer of the subdivision. We never heard back after that. So my assumption was he didn't want to try to take it on, but that's what I can tell you about the roads, though. I mean, we did research.
Just for curiosity, who owns the road?
As far as the record owner, it's either gonna be,
Who?
what?
John Lavender owns the road.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just a
Yeah,
recorder
he's
that go
I'm not sure if he actually owns them or it may be in an LLC or something like that, but
He owns the road.
I'd have to look at the title work, to see, but, it's been this goes back years, like before Brad, his predecessor, Kirk Tatum. We dealt with it several times, and so it's not a new problem.
And, in terms of the permitting and the wetlands, I think, I'm not sure if Corey's in here. Corey has been very helpful in reaching out to Corps of Engineers. He's got some contacts there. We do have a meeting set up with them. We'll see what comes from that. So, and I think after we do that, and then, maybe we'll have a little more information to provide again as a follow-up, so.
Any other discussion? Go ahead.
Everybody knows this is my first meeting, and I just want to appreciate everybody that's helped me get here. Everybody's been so friendly, kind, and helpful. Talked to a lot of the staff over the last couple of weeks. Everybody's just so friendly and welcoming, so I just want to thank everybody on that. Another note that I did want to say is I want to start doing some town hall meetings, and I'm not sure how the process is on that, but I'd like to possibly try to get one going at the end of February. So I don't know what the process is on that, but I'll be getting some more information on that, and I'll be spreading that whenever I figure all that stuff out. Appreciate it again, y'all.
Anything from the right side over here?
Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, I'd like to direct this question to Ms. Knowles. When is your first board meeting?
Thursday night.
Thursday night. Well, I want to start working with y'all, so I'm going to try to come in and be there so I can see how you roll in your meetings.
I'm gonna roll, I don't know.
Well, I just want to see how you roll in your meetings so I can report back to this board. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if everybody would, please keep the Chris Thompson family in your prayers. We lost a good fellow farmer, a good person, a good all-around man, New Year's Eve night to an accident. And young man, we hoped we could have him a lot longer than we do now in this county, but he's gone. Good Lord called him, and we'll move forward from there. But if you would, please keep his wife and his family in prayers for.
Amen.
Couple things before we go into executive session here. Christy King, in discussion with her today, she's gonna send an email out to the commissioners, talking about some, budgeting priorities that they've sent out in the past from previous budget workshops. It's January. Right around the corner, we're gonna start talking about budgeting. And I would like our commissioners now to start looking at those past budgeting priorities and thinking about what your budgeting priorities are for this year. I would like to be able to sit down and give our staff the budgeting priorities as they start to work on their budgets. So that when they come in, they know this is what our concerns are. And this is where we're going. So that it's more of a two-way communication versus them saying, this is what we want, or this is what we'd like to have. And there'll be more to follow on that. Second thing that I'd like to say is just thank you to everyone in this room. I've been humbled over the last 2 months. I've been running around like my hair's on fire. Y'all can make your own jokes. Since about the 1st of November, as I've tried to prepare to take this role tonight, and I cannot believe the amount of support that I've been provided by the staff in this room and by these gentlemen to my left and my right. And I can tell you that, well, I'll tell you two different stories here. I've sat down with every one of these gentlemen here and talked with them about all kinds of things. And we don't agree on everything. But you know, it was humbling to me to have them, one, just sit down and talk with me, but two, to have them sit down and have honest discussions about not just how things work, but their insight to being a commissioner and the challenges that they face every day and how it affects them personally and how they deal with those things. They didn't have to do that. It meant a lot to me, and it was insightful to me. And I look forward to having more of those discussions with them. And you know, we've all said it. We're not always going to agree on everything. But we will have those discussions, and we will work on them, and we will work for the betterment of this county. So we ain't always going to get along, but we ain't going to punch each other in the face either. So we'll have those discussions, and we'll move forward. I'm going to tell you something else. I realized after talking to some folks about 3 or 4 weeks ago that I just didn't know everything that I needed to know about this upcoming SPLOST. And I went to, I'm going to call her, it says Ms. Steiner, but I went to Cindy and I said, Cindy, I need you to talk to me like I'm in kindergarten about this SPLOST. And she said, well, okay, I can talk to you next Wednesday afternoon, like on a Monday. I said, great. I figured that I'd come in and we'd sit in her office and she'd get out her crayons and draw me pictures and stuff like that. Well, I came in and I didn't just get Cindy. I got Cindy and I got Jeff Akins, the lawyer, Christy King, the CFO, and they had big pictures on big pieces of paper with lots of colors. And they sat there and they used real small words and they talked to me for a whole afternoon. And I'm gonna tell you, it was very humbling to me to have 3 of the key leaders within the staff of this organization to stop what they were doing for an entire afternoon to make sure that I understood what was going on with this SPLOST so that I could then go forward and advocate to the constituents of this county to make sure that people understood what was going on with it. And I will tell you that the same way that they did that for me, they would do it for any one of y'all. So I will tell you that if you've got questions about what's going on here, send them an email and tell them you got questions. They'll take the time to do that for you too. The elections are over. It's time to move past all the hard feelings. You know, and I've told people, I said, I wanted to come in this meeting tonight and set a new tone in this county. Let's get past all of the distrust, mistrust. Let's work toward having some mutual respect for each other. We're not all going to agree. But I tell people all the time, that lady over there has been married to me for 23 years. And if I sit down with her for 10 minutes, I'll make her mad. I'll find something that she disagrees with me about. Same way I could probably find something to make every one of y'all disagree with me something about. But we can also find a lot of things that we have commonality about. So let's treat each other decent. Let's work on finding some commonality. Let's ask the questions, and let's be civil while we do it. These people that work in this county, they come to work and they do a job just like we all do. And they want to go home at the end of the day and be with their families just like we all do. These people up here, they do the same thing, and all they want to do, whether we agree with them or not, they want what's best for this county. That's all I got. So with that, we're gonna go into executive session, and I'll tell you this, we're gonna come out and vote on some things based off of this executive session. If you'd like to hang around after I'm gonna ask you to step out for a minute so we can talk about some stuff. If you wanna hang out, you can come on back in, we'll vote on some stuff, and then we'll wrap this thing up for the night. So with that being said, I must now call for a motion to adjourn into executive session in accordance with the provisions of OCGA 50-14-3, Bravo 2, and OCGA 50-14-2-1, and other applicable laws pursuant to the advice of County Attorney Jeff Akins for the purpose of discussing personnel matters and pending litigation. I need a motion to go into executive session.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
All in favor? Unanimous decision, here we go.
I don't care what y'all say. This dog on here, letting people talk. That's going down the wrong road, I'm telling you. Wrong road.
You and I had that discussion back.
It's like buying a car before you know what kind of car it is.